Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Lake George Club here on beautiful Lake George. My name is Tony DeStratis. I'm the chef here at the beautiful Lake George Club. And with most people staying at home these days, I'm going to try to show you some way to entertain yourself by making these beautiful hors d'oeuvres at home, or an entree depending on your mood. And also great for entertaining if you want to have some friends and family over. It's a fun dish to do. What we're going to do is an Americanized version of sushi, and I'll go over some of the ingredients here with you. The most important thing on making sushi is getting the rice properly cooked, because it's going to be consumed cold. And if you've ever eaten Chinese rice out of a Chinese food container when it's cold, it's not that great. So you really have to try to make this rice perfect. And what it requires is a lot of rinsing and washing, because it's very, very starchy. So once you complete rinsing, you use something like this to drain your rice. You run it through cold water until the water runs clear. And as it runs clear, you know that it's ready to drain, ready to dry, and ready to cook. At that point, you're going to use, unlike other rices, you're going to use 50-50 on the rice and the water. And you want to use salted water with the addition of some rice wine vinegar. And it's all up to you when it comes to the salt and the vinegar. It's how much flavor you'd like to put in there. And we use rice wine vinegar. It's a Japanese product, very flavorful. And most of the things that you're going to see here are Japanese products. You don't want to confuse any other ethnic Asian style food with sushi, because it's primarily Japanese. Going through some of the items, these are, like I said, American versions. This is a crab. I have some salmon. I have some cucumbers that I pickled earlier. I have some other pickled vegetables just for color. And here in the States, we use this wasabi powder. It's very popular in most Asian restaurants, but true wasabi is an actual root that can be grated over your sushi for that actual, real, natural flavor of wasabi. This is a close second. It's pretty good. Most people are familiar with it. The pickled ginger is another standard condiment used in rolling sushi. You'll see it in all the Japanese restaurants. It comes on the side, or it comes rolled in your sushi. If it comes on the side, it's meant to cleanse your palate in between courses. And then we have this is dried seaweed called wakame, which is another essential flavor when you're preparing sushi. It's made in the rice. So what I do is I'll take it. It looks like this. It's ground to a point where it looks like tobacco, cigar tobacco maybe. I make a little sachet similar to this, and I'll steep this in the water while the rice is cooking to give it that nice flavor of the ocean. You can basically taste the ocean in this just a little bit, and it helps with all your other condiments. And the rice has to be sweetened a little bit with the vinegar. The vinegar will give it a nice acid flavor, and you want to put some sea salt in there as well. But then when it comes to sweeten the rice, it has to be sweet. I like to use agave. So agave is the nectar. It's basically just a syrup that it just has a really nice natural flavor, opposed to using sugar. I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to twist some of this stuff up and entertain your friends. So what you have to do to start with is you have to have a non-porous surface. So something like this, I have a tile here which works very well. What we're going to do is dampen it a little bit so that the plastic wrap can stick directly to it. So it'll give you leverage for rolling. What we do here is sushi in bulk quantities. So I prefer to use the plastic wrap opposed to a bamboo roller, which you'll see available in all the stores when you go to find these ingredients. This is a traditional method of rolling sushi. But I choose not to use this because I usually do a lot of this, and if I use that, the rice gets stuck in there, and sometimes it'll distort your roll a little bit. So to start with, this is a nori paper. It's a pulverized seaweed that's sheeted, dried in the sun, and it's roasted. And this is the standard for rolling sushi. So what you're going to do is you put that down. It has a shiny side and a dull side. I'm going to put the shiny side down. And from there, you're going to start working with your rice. Now the rice is so sticky that if you don't keep your hands wet, you're going to be covered with this stuff. It's going to stick to everything in the near area. Everything is going to be stuck to it. So what you want to do is just keep your hands nice and wet at all times, whether you're using gloves or not. And you want to take out a nice portion of rice, lay it down in the paper, in the nori, similar to this. You want to leave a little space at the bottom and a little space at the top, maybe 1.5 inches to 2 inches. And I'm going to show you a couple of different methods and a couple of different rolls, but this is your standard nori roll. This style of sushi is called maki. The maki is the roll, The sushi is basically the rice and the seaweed. The ingredients which you add, it's all entirely up to you. What we're going to do is put some crab in here. We're going to take some cucumber. We're going to take some chive for color. Now the trick here, and the secret to this, doing this at home, very simple, don't be intimidated. The whole idea is to make this roll where the rice in the beginning meets the rice on the end. So very simply, you're just going to take it and roll it like this. The plastic wrap's doing all the work for you. And the beauty of the plastic wrap is it sticks to the table, so it gives you leverage. You can pull tight, and this has to be tight. It has to be very tight so that the roll doesn't decompress when you go to cut it. What we're doing is a very, very simple roll right here. This is your standard roll, and we're going to get a little bit more in depth with this in a moment. So what you do is this, and you keep it in the plastic until you're ready to use it so it stays nice and fresh. We're going to put this one aside, and I'm going to show you a better one. The trick is to keep your surface damp so that the plastic sticks to it. The next roll I'm going to do, this is very simple, very, very simple. I'm going to start with the rice first instead of the nori. So we're going to take the rice, we're going to put the rice on the board just like this. And this one's a little bit more creative. When it's done, it has a really nice look. And like you said, this is all about impressing your friends, right? So what I'm going to do is take this, I'm going to put a little bit of plastic wrap over it, and then I'm just going to even it out with my little roller here. I'm going to make it nice and even, so that when it rolls, it's all the same thickness through and through. So we're going to take a piece of nori, roasted seaweed. So we're going to take a piece and cut it in half. I'm going to use probably half of this sheet right here, a long way. And then I'm going to lay it in there like that. Put a little bit more in the end, like this. So in this one, I'm going to put something with some nice color because I want to transform it into a flower, which is going to be very pretty when you're done. So we're going to start with some julienne pepper. And this has all been pickled in rice wine vinegar, all these ingredients. I'm going to use some avocado. Avocado, this is pretty much what we consider a California roll. California roll is just something that people are more familiar with in this area, primarily vegetarian or crab. What we're going to do is take these beautiful colors, add a little bit more cucumber in there, and vegetarians love this because it's all about them. So from here, we're just going to do the same thing we did before, and we're going to roll that up. We're going to bring everything toward you. You're going to pull toward you so that everything comes together in one piece. And the whole idea is to keep that, all those ingredients that you put in need to be concentrated right in the center of the roll. So you're going to go all the way up to the top. And now you're going to leave this one loose. You don't have to roll it up tight because I'm going to put another ingredient onto this. So we're going to leave this like this for a moment. We're going to take some beautiful, what I call microgreens. These are microgreens. They're a variety of baby herbs and baby sprouts that are readily available in any good store. Anyway, you'll find them in Whole Foods and sprouts and those kind of things. And also I have some chive blossoms that I took from my garden. And I'm going to just put those in there for some color as well. So once you have this down on there, you're going to take the roll that you just started, which is just sticky rice on the outside now, and we're going to just roll it onto there. And you see how sticky this rice is. Everything sticks to it, as you can see. But what I'm going to do is continue to roll that up and make sure that that is all stuck to it in a nice fashion like that. And now again, you have to make these firm enough so when you go to slice them, they stay to the shape that you want. You don't want them decompressing and breaking apart and rolling all over the place. So now with this one here, I'm going to do is just use my palm heel and I'm going to shape it in the shape of a teardrop. So what we're going to do is on one side, I'm just going to push it down so it has like a point. I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing on that side. And I'll show you why I did this in a moment. We have that. I'm going to set it aside. It's ready to go. Now we're going to do one that's very, very popular. It's what we brought to the table here at the club, and it's very popular. I use it in a lot of different mediums. First of all, we start with a really nice grade tuna. It's meant to be eaten raw, but it's also been processed for that. I'm going to add This is a Korean ketchup, basically. It's called sriracha. Everyone's pretty much familiar with sriracha. Going to add a little bit of this. It's very spicy. It's nice. It's got a nice pungent to it. And then we're going to add a little bit of the sambal, which is really spicy. And you know, spicy tuna. That's why we call it spicy tuna. You got to love it. And at this point, I'll add a little vinegar too. Now, vinegar. And the other thing I would like to mention about the rice is the vinegar and the salt and the sugar that's in the rice does act like a curing agent when you're using raw or undercooked product. If there's any surface bacteria on the product, it's pretty much neutralized by what's in the rice. And I think that's been a tradition all along. I'd like to add maybe a little bit of seasoning to this as well, a little sesame in there. Toss it up really nice. And again, this can be consumed as is, and you know, you put a little pineapple juice in there and call it poke, you know. But for my purposes, it's spicy tuna. So we're going to put that aside for a moment. We're going to pretty much do it like we did the first one, but we're going to shape it again so that it has that rose petal shape to it. So we're going to use our nori shiny side down. Very simple. Keep your hands nice and wet, and work the rice a little bit. So again, you want to lay your rice in there. For this one here, you want to keep it a little bit thick so that the marinade that I've put on the tuna doesn't bleed through the rice and come up the paper. You want to keep the rice maybe a ½ inch thick on the paper, which is, it's going to be what they call in Japan a futomaki, which means it's a big fat roll. And then because it's raw fish, I'm going to use some seaweed. I have a seaweed salad here. That is, it's delicious. It's actually called wakame. Wakame is a variety of edible seaweed, and this one has been marinated a little bit in Asian spices and sesame. And it goes really nice with the tuna. I'm going to lay that in there. I'll put in some of this chive blossom because I want some of that color, the beautiful color. So what I'm going to do is take this spicy tuna. I'm going to lay it in there, nice and thick. And this, like I said, has become a very popular item here in the United States, especially here at the club. They love it. If you take a look at that, that's pretty much how you want this to look to start with. Now this one's going to require a little more care in rolling, only because you don't want anything falling out the ends. So you got to work it a little bit at a time. So you're going to start just by compressing. You want to compress toward you. Bring it toward you so that it all stays inside. And with rice meets rice, that's what you're looking for. So a little bit more to here. Okay, now you see this is a big thick roll, but, and you want to push this, keep pushing in the end so that everything comes together. And the reason I use plastic wrap again is because nothing sticks to plastic wrap. It works great. If you see these little particles of rice kicking around the table, if they were to get caught inside here, next time I go to do a roll, it's going to stick to the paper and rip the paper and so forth. So, and then I'm going to start over to make it nice and tight. And then because this is very decorative when you go to cut it later, I want to give it a little bit of a shape. Again, we can make this one just basically oval. So when I go to cut it, it's got the shape of a flower a little bit. Okay, so we got your 3 basic rolls like that. We'll do one more inverted roll, which means the rice is on the outside. Now I have this other sort of nori. This is made with egg white, and it's basically just a very thin paper that's used in sushi rolling, and it's just basically egg whites that's been colored with natural ingredients. Plastic wrap down, we're going to start our rice again. Now I'm going to do one that's a little bit larger, because you know when we do big parties you want to get as many cuts as you can out of one roll. And sometimes I'll put 3 or 4 sheets of nori together just to make one single roll when I'm trying to get bulk. But for this purpose, I'm going to go maybe 2 sheets wide. And then, so that's about what we want right there. And see, if your hands aren't completely wet, you're going to be covered with rice. So from here, I'm going to take another piece of plastic wrap, put it over this one. And all I want to do is take my little handy dandy rolling pin and just kind of smooth that out. You don't want to press too hard, because if you do, you're going to break the kernels. And if you break the rice kernels, they become pasty, and it gives you a rather unpleasant mouthfeel. So you want to try and keep all those kernels whole. And once they get cold, it gets to the point where it's cold, you can't really use it. So you have to use it the day you make it. We're going to use some of this smoked salmon here. This is actually a cured salmon. Doesn't have any smoke to it. It's just a nice flavored salmon that's been cured, pretty much like a gravlax. And just lay that in there. And like I say, I like to use pickled ginger in this roll because I think the flavor profile is perfect with the flavor of the salmon. This is pickled ginger. It comes sliced. It's usually in a pink color. Very beautiful, very flavorful. Can be used as a palate cleanser, or it can be just used as a little snack. It freshens your breath. It's supposed to aid in digestion. It's very good for you in many certain ways. So we're going to lay that in there for the flavor profile. Let's see, let's add a little bit of black sesame just for the color contrast there. Add some cucumber because it goes very well with salmon. Cucumber going to go in there like that. And then I'm going to add some chive for color and flavor. Okay, and if you want at this point, you can drizzle anything in there. You can squeeze lemon on it. You can put anything you want on there. I'm just going to leave it just pretty much like that for now. And then I'm going to start rolling. I'm going to put a little piece of this in there only because I want some color. So I'm going to cut this in half and lay that right in there like that. So that's just going to add another dimension and color once this thing is all rolled up and ready to go. So again, we're going to start to roll. You want your rice to come all the way around your inlay. Whatever you put in the center has to be sealed inside. If it comes to the outer edge, then it's just not going to work. So this one, because it's a little bit longer, you got to work it a little better. Start from the center and work your fingers out to the edges, pulling at the whole time. You got to pull toward you to keep it all together. And again, the plastic will help you with that. And when you get to this point, you want to roll it all the way up. And, okay, from here, you want to push in the ends a little bit to keep it sealed. Okay, now because we've already used the microgreens on one of them, we'll take our black sesame seed, put it out there nice and thick like that. And believe it or not, I have some everything bagel spice. Now, don't ever tell any Japanese person I'm using that bagel spice, but I'm going to put a little of that in there just because it has a lot of flavor and also has sesame seed in it. Okay, from here, I'm going to make sure that that's nice and even. I'm going to get my roll back, unroll it. Always leave the plastic loose so that you can unroll it easily. Nothing worse than trying to find the edge of a piece of plastic when you're in a hurry. Okay, so here we are with that. Now, as you can see, it sticks really nicely to it. And you can just keep rolling it around until it's pretty even coated at this point. What I'm going to do is just see if I can get some more on the bottom there, just like that. And we can roll this one up. And because it's so long, like this, what I want to do is re-wrap it. And when you do inverted rolls and your ingredients are on the outside, sometimes it's good to just wrap it in plastic, leave it in plastic, and then slice it right in the plastic. That way there it conforms to its shape. You want to keep everything in there. Bring it again, like you see, the leverage, because the plastic wrap is stuck, I can pull toward me, and that will give you leverage to keep a nice tight roll. And you want to work it from the center out. And we'll grab our little board here, cutting board. And I have a variety of sushi knives, and sushi knives are different than other knives because they have a bevel on one side. And what that does, it allows it to slice through the rice without it sticking, and it gives you a nice clean cut. If you take a look in the center, you'll see how everything is in the center the way it should be. Okay, we'll leave that one aside for a moment, and then we're going to bring up the one, remember my palm heel that I pushed into this one? And what we're going to do is start cutting this, but as you see, it gives you like a teardrop shape that you can form into a flower, and I'll show you. Take the plastic wrap off of this, and this is kind of neat And like I say, it's very easy to do at home. And one of the things I want to show you, it's like people eat with their eyes. They always have and they always will. And the presentation, because it's already beautiful, the presentation, it's all about making it look good. So I'm going to slice some of this here. And I like to keep it nice and thick. You know, people like to have a nice piece of sushi. It doesn't have to be thin. Again, you know, you like to get about 10 pieces out of a roll. The beauty of cutting this style with the palm heel is you can arrange it so that it actually creates like a flower. Just like that, okay? And what we have some, this is called golden tobiko. What it is, it's a flying fish roe that's been completely cured and 100% edible. And it goes very, very well with sushi. What I'm gonna do is take a little bit of this and just put it right in the center as a garnish, pretty much, and brighten up the center of that right there. And then what I'm going to do is take my wasabi, which, like I said before, it's very pungent, but it's an excellent flavor that goes with sushi very well. And what you can do with this is just kind of put it in a little bag. Like you can use a baggie if you don't have piping bags. You use the corner of a baggie. And what you can do is just like create a little flower. You can put some leaves on that, some petals, whatever, and you know, anything like that. And you can take some of your pickled ginger, which is here, put that on the plate as well, right there. And if you want, just to make this as a little bit of an appetizer, make a little well with your wasabi, fill it with your soy sauce, and you're good to go. And you know, this is basically a finger food, so you know, you pick a piece up, you dip it, and you eat it. And that's the way it goes, you know. I mean, you don't need any silverware, you don't need anything like that. So this is just one basic roll. So next we're going to slice into some of these other rolls we made. And like I say, some of these you might want, just for consistency reasons, and you want to keep it nice and even looking, you can slice it with the plastic on. And because nothing sticks to plastic, it'll just slide right off in your finger. And you can start laying it out any way you want. Bite size. This one's a little bit thinner than the other just because we want to keep it bite-sized, but if you look at it, you'll see that the inlay is directly in the center, and that's what you want when you're rolling sushi. You don't want any of those ingredients coming out to the edge, because if it does, it'll bleed right through the nori. So we'll put 4 pieces of this on there, and then we'll grab our spicy tuna roll, which is delicious. This is my favorite roll right here. And again, let the knife do the work, because it slices right through there with ease. You got to keep your sushi knives nice and sharp. Okay, so spicy tuna roll. We're going to put that aside and we're going to lay this out. Let's lay it out this way. Like this. And a couple of pieces there. And we'll take this other one. We'll keep this one nice and thick. As you can see, everything's right in the middle where you want it. It's a nice bite-sized piece. So this is the crab roll. The first one I cut was the vegetarian roll. But, and again, this style of crab, or the style, you can use lobster, you can use shrimp, anything you feel would make a good condiment, a good flavor. Anything goes when it comes to rolling. It's all up to you, whatever you want to put in. After I set up a plate, and I'll make a condiment plate sometimes. And if you have your wasabi in a bag like this, you can create anything you want. You can, like I like to make a, you know, let's make a dragon, for example. So if I take this and I just kind of go around like that, maybe, and I'll put some things like this, it kind of gives you a little look like an Asian looking dragon coming around like that, you know, put an eyeball on them. And, you know, you can do whatever you want. And you could do Asian writing. I mean, nobody knows what this stuff says, but if you kind of do this and a couple of these things, it looks like you wrote something in Japanese. So anyway, you take that, and you can take your pickled ginger again, and just put a little bit here. And you can take these little seashell looking things that I like, fill it with your soy sauce, keep it nice and contained. And there you have a nice little condiment tray. You can put some seaweed salad on there, which is also very, very good, right in there, just for color. So it's endless. I mean, it really is endless when it comes to sushi. The ingredients are all up to you. I hope I was able to show you the basics of it. Just practice, do it a couple times, and you'll be Genius.